Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today we're gonna be reacting to my top 10 favorite fantasy books of all time, or might be top 10 favorite fantasy series of all time. I don't really remember. I made this video, it was either 2019 or 2020. I really don't remember which year, but it was back when I was like a lot more active on BookTube. I've decided to restart my channel, which I kind of started in December of last year, but I plan to be super active again this year like I was back in 2019. And I thought it'd be fun to do a video series where I'm reacting to my old videos and seeing how my opinions have changed over the years or haven't changed, because if I'm being honest, I haven't read that many books between say like 2022 to 2024, so it could be interesting to see what has stayed with me over this time and what hasn't. Also, I think it could be quite interesting. I think this list would be a lot different in 2019 than 2020 because I found a lot of favorites in 2019, so we shall see. I'm really excited to see what I have on it. Okay, I've done a lot of fantasy videos, but I cannot find my top 10 video. I found it. Okay, so it's from 5 years ago. So this is from 2019, so this should be an interesting list because I feel like there's a lot of things that I've read between 2019 to 2024 that are gonna be on my top 10 now that definitely would not have been back then.
Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about my top 10 favorite books of all time.
So it's not fantasy specific, it's favorite books of all time, but I think there's gonna be a lot of fantasy on it, and I meant to do this as a fantasy list. I don't know why I did it not as a fantasy. And I have my old intro. Tell me, do you guys like the intro or not? Because I stopped doing intros because I feel like people just skip it anyway, but I kind of like the intro. This is like the old one that was like kind of long, but like the newer one that I had that was like short was better than this, and I liked it, but I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments.
This video, I'm not going to consider genre at all. Out of all of the books that I have read, which ones are my favorites, and I'm pretty sure all of it, except for maybe one, has some science fiction or fantasy aspect to it, because that's just what I really...
This was also back when I used to wear makeup for my videos. I very rarely put makeup on for my videos now, but I've started doing it a little bit more. But I found that like I actually like my videos sometimes more without the makeup on, just because I generally don't wear makeup in real life. So like it just feels more me. I don't know, it's weird.
Because that's just what I really enjoy reading. Also, if it's part of a series, I'm just gonna include the entire...
Also, I really love this top. I still have that top, but it doesn't fit me anymore, and it makes me so sad.
Rather than just one book. Otherwise, this top 10 list would be like all in one series and then the start of another series, which just doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna include the entire series as one entry onto this list. Before we get started on my top 10, I do have a couple honorable mentions that I wanted to talk about.
Of course, I did honorable mentions.
Machine by H.G. Wells. I really enjoyed this book. I read it as...
Interesting. I wouldn't have expected to have read The Time Machine by this time. I'm thinking maybe some of my favorites I read in 2018, not realizing that they were going to be on this list, because The Time Machine was definitely something that I thought I had read in 2019.
I really loved it. My next honorable mention that I like to talk about is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is the only non-science fiction fantasy book that is probably going to be in this video.
It Ends With Us. Oh, I mean, it's definitely not a top 10 favorite book of mine now, but it is the book that I read the first day of 2018. Like it was January 1st, 2018. I remember because I had some like person come, like I had a contractor come in to do some work in my kitchen, and like I was supervising them. It was like the first time I ever like had to do that without like my parents around, and so I was like, I need to do something so it doesn't look like I'm supervising them. So like I just picked up a random book and decided to read it, and like before I knew it, the guy was gone and I was still reading this book. So like honestly, because of this book and the amount of reading that I got done that year, that's why I started a BookTube channel in the first place. So it still holds a good place in my heart.
Books. And my last honorable mention is the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. This includes The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear. So these books were one of the few that I read.
The Kingkiller Chronicles. I love the Kingkiller Chronicles. I reread it somewhat recently. By somewhat, I mean within the last 5 years, and I ended up liking it even more than I remember liking it the first time.
That I read.
One thing I've noticed is after having started a BookTube channel and read a lot, like, I won't say like worse books, but books that are not in my typical taste, the books that I go back to that I was initially pretty harsh with, I end up liking them a lot more now. And I think the Kingkiller Chronicles Chronicles is one of those series.
Okay, so before we get into the actual top 10 books, don't take the order of these books too seriously because they change based on my mood. But my top 2 are definitely my top 2, and they're very cliche because they're super popular.
Okay, so I didn't know how to order the books, apparently. I do have a new system for that, but I'll go over that in my top 10 video, which I'll be posting not too long after this video, so look out for it. And I'll link it in the description when I have it up.
Coming in at number 10 is the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, which includes Mistborn: The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages.
Okay, Mistborn is number 10. I'm so surprised that Mistborn is number 10. I feel like I've read so much since then that are fantastic books, but I always kind of put Mistborn as, is it better than Mistborn or worse than Mistborn, as like decision of whether it's like a favorite book for me. So I don't know. I'm surprised it's that low on this list.
Losing myself in this world. The next series is a very new one to me, and that is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, which includes Nevermore: The Trials of Morrigan Crow and Wondersmith: The Calling of Morrigan Crow. These are middle grade books that got really popular last year. I saw a lot of it on BookTube, so that's why I decided to pick up Nevermore last year.
Okay, so I read Nevermore already. That surprises me too. I definitely thought I read Nevermore later than that. And this is Wondersmith as well. So I've read the first 2 books in this series already. I love the series, but it's no longer on my top 10. Like, I wouldn't consider it a top 10 series for me, but I still love the series. It's super fun, but like it doesn't even make my short list anymore. So that just goes to show, like, yeah, your opinions definitely change. I feel like I do have a tiny bit of like recency bias too. So I feel like that's probably why it made it on this list and higher than Mistborn too. Cause like I'm still flabbergasted that Mistborn was so low on this list.
And I really, really enjoyed it. This is often compared to Harry Potter, which I completely understand the comparison.
Yeah, I think the Harry Potter comparison did influence how much I liked these books, because I think the comparison is really obvious at the beginning, because like the first book definitely feels like a younger version of like Goblet of Fire, but like I feel like that goes away eventually. I still like the series, like I said, and I am super excited for Silverborn, which is coming out soon, but yeah, I wouldn't really expect this on a top 10 list for me anymore.
I got Wondersmith right when it came out last year, I think in November, and I was reading Wondersmith, and even though I gave Nevermore 5 stars and really loved it, when I was reading Wondersmith, I just kept thinking how much better it was than the first book.
That's true. I did like Wondersmith a lot more than Nevermore, but then Hollow Pots came out, and I did not like Hollow Pots as much as either of the first 2, so that's probably why it bumped it down so much for me as well. I'm gonna skip to the next one.
The next book on this list is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern.
Let's hear what I have to say about it.
I have talked pretty extensively about this book on my channel because I read this for the first time last year and even did a reread of it later in the year and absolutely loved it so much the second time around.
Okay, yeah, again, recency bias. I had just finished Night Circus. Obviously, the series that I'm gonna do is not gonna include standalones like the Night Circus in it. I understand why a lot of people don't like the Night Circus. Like, I totally get it. I don't like the characters either. I don't like the plot. I don't even love the world building that much, right? But the writing style is so well done that I can't help but loving this book. Also, it was like one of the first audiobooks that I picked up, and the audiobook is so well done too that it made me fall in love with audiobooks. Even though I wouldn't put the Night Circus on like a top fantasy list anymore, I did really love it that year. And it is, I would say, a favorite like standalone fantasy for me. And I still consider it like a favorite book of mine, but I have a lot of other books that would go ahead of this.
The next one on this list is another middle grade series, and that is The Underland Chronicles by Suzanne Collins, which includes Gregor the Overlander, Gregor and the Prophecy of Bane, Gregor and the Curse of the Warmbloods, Gregor and the Marks of Secret, and Gregor and the Code of Claw. 5 books is a little much for me to hold, so I'm just gonna hold the last 2.
I love The Underland Chronicles. Like, I have not stopped loving The Underland Chronicles. I will never stop loving The Underland Chronicles. The Underland Chronicles is one of those series that I try and reread at least once every year or every 2 years just because of how much I love it, and I adore it even more every time I read it. I have nothing else to say about this. It absolutely deserves to be on this list.
So for the next book on this list, I don't yet have a physical copy of because I listened to it on an audiobook for the first time, and that is Animal Farm by George George Orwell. I absolutely loved this book reading.
I do absolutely love Animal Farm. It is not going to be on my new list because it's a standalone, it's sci-fi, it's not fantasy. If I do like a favorite standalones video, Animal Farm will be at like the very top because it is amazing. I do have a physical copy of it now. It's illustrated and it's gorgeous, and I'm so like, it's such a great book. It's such a great book. I never realized how much I like politics in books until I read Animal Farm, and it is so well done. Like, it is one of the best well done allegories for like politics that I've ever read. It's so like timeless because like this was written about, I believe it was written like in the Cold War, or it was about like communism or like past communism into fascism, like that time era of things. It still makes a lot of sense today, let's just put it that way.
Book, reading it for the first time, I was so invested in this book.
I was reading this in 2019 though, so like I feel like we're going back to 2019. That's what it feels like, and so it makes sense.
Book that I've ever read. So coming in at number 5, we're getting to a book that I read for the first time this year, and that is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey.
Interesting. Okay. So this is a hard sci-fi series. I do like the series. My favorite in the series though is Leviathan Wakes, at least that I remember, and it has not kept up with me as much as I liked it back then.
So in this universe, Earth has colonized Mars as well as like the outer belt of our solar system. So there are kind of 3 main entities in this world. There's Earth, there's Mars, and then the...
Okay. I understand how influencers work now because I'm listening to myself talk about the Expanse series, and now I want to go back and finish the Expanse series. I'll put it on my to-do list for the year. I'm not going to be able to do it anytime soon, but at some point in the year, I could probably get to it.
All time. The next one on this list is also a book that I read for the first time this year, and that is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This is
Yay! Yay!
In the realm of the Elderlings.
I love the realm of the Elderlings. I love the live ship traders. I'm so glad it's on this list. I kind of didn't expect it to be because I remember reading these books like in 2019, and this was done in like February of 2019, so I wasn't sure if I had gotten to them yet. I'm so glad it's on this list though.
Series, this is one of the best high fantasy books that I have ever read. This book follows the big town traders, and it's following several main characters in the old trader families as well as a pirate. And in this society, there are also these things called live ships, where basically the ships are sentient and are able to talk and also sail faster and navigate better than any of the other ships. It's such a...
I gotta stop listening to myself. I already know what the book is. And now it just makes me want to read the Live Ship Traders trilogy again. And it's been so long. I have so many other books I need to read. I can't reread it, but I really want to now. Okay, we're skipping.
Coming in at number 3, we have the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan.
Okay, Wheel of Time!
Series in one hand because
I would not consider the Wheel of Time better than the Live Ship Traders. I personally would like the Live Ship Traders more than the Wheel of Time, but that might be recency bias. I read the Wheel of Time like right out of high school. The Live Ship Traders, as said in this video, I read only about 5 years ago, so I still love the Wheel of Time series. It is definitely like a nostalgic favorite for me, so I'm okay with it being on this list.
Because it's 14 novels long. This series includes The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, The Dragon.
I was really all about naming every single book in the series, wasn't I?
The Path of Daggers, Winter's Heart, Crossroads of Twilight, Knife of Dreams, The Gathering Storm, Towers of Midnight, and A Memory of Light. So this series is one of the first high fantasy series that I've ever read, and this series is the reason why I fell in love with how...
We're gonna skip ahead.
Coming in at number 2 is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, which includes A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords, A Feast for Crows, and A Dance with Dragons.
Man, I did very bad at cutting that because I gave it away before I even mentioned it. Anyways, it's fine. I love A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't talk about it on my channel that much because I know there are strong opinions both for and against, and like people who've only watched the show versus people who've only read the books, and it's one of my favorite series of all time, and it will remain one of my favorite series of all time. And I get it may never be finished, and I'm okay with that. I have made my peace with it, and I'm gonna love what is out.
The series changed how I read a lot. Sometimes in bad ways, because it's really hard to find a plot twist that actually works really well for me now, because there are such amazing plot twists in this series.
Yeah, there are such amazing plot twists in that series. Like literally the first time I read the series, at one point, and you probably know what point it is, I literally threw the book across the room and stopped reading for like 2 months. And then I picked up the book like it was nothing and continued on with it and then finished the series. After that, it literally put me in a reading slump for like 5 years. Like I reread a bunch of books after that just to get back into the reading mood, because after I read the series, like literally nothing was good anymore.
I'm not gonna say what the series is about, because if you don't know, you should go read it, or at least watch the show, because the show is really good too.
Yeah, that's definitely changed.
We have the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling.
No comment. Alrighty, that was actually a lot more fun than I was expecting to. There were a lot of things that changed. There are a few that have stayed the same, and there are definitely some that, one in particular that I'm thinking of, that I would put higher on this list than they were. But I will be doing a top 10 fantasy series of all time update. That should be like an update to this one, and it's something that I plan to update every year in hopes that they're gonna change a little bit, at least a little bit every year. So we'll see how that goes, but definitely look out for that one coming very soon. So that is all I have for you today. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about them, or perhaps some books that you once thought was part of your top 10 favorite books of all time, but maybe would not make that list today. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. I post at least one video per week, but I do post bonus videos, so consider subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.